Hey guys, what's up? It is Gun Thug here. I am doing my third commentary on our very own PSL action. This time we got Robofiend, a seasoned Diamond Platinum Pearl OU player, a Gen 4 OU player, going against Telf, who last year, as you can probably tell by his moniker on Showdown, was primarily a VGC player. But he had to adapt when our host brutally um, chopped VGC from the rotation this season and replaced it with ORAS, and apparently he opted for DPP. And I knew going into this that this was going to be a good matchup. Okay, I had actually faced Robofiend on the ladder a couple days before this, and he had admitted to me in confidence, obviously, that he hadn't played DPP OU since the last PSL season, which was at this point, I don't know, a few months ago. So he was obviously going to be rusty. Telf has always had good instincts, especially has always been a good showdown player. He's capable of learning a new metagame, especially a metagame so inviting and so easy to learn, like DPP. I'm not saying it's easy to learn, but it's I think it's fun. I think what we have played on MMO for years now, some of us at least. I think it lends itself well to transitioning into DPP, and I'm seeing that. I'm seeing more people posting DPP replays. Came up against L. Krenz in a DPP match yesterday, and Frags and Azaz were in there spectating. It was a great match. It's fun to see PokeMMO players branching out and trying out new meta games, because I think that should guide our discussion on where our own meta should go. And there's no, know where I land on that subject. But anywho, let's get to what you guys are probably watching to see, and that's this amazing action between Robofiend and Telf. Now this is Dark Brotherhood versus Hellacious Houndooms, I believe, and this was a pretty pivotal match. I didn't want to put too much pressure on Robo, but I let him know before the match. I think it was 3-3 in the week, so this was kind of that break point. And well, you will see what happens. Let's start here with the leads. We got Jirachi as Elf. I think Jirachi's a very solid lead, but I mean, what job does it not do well? I've been vocal about Jirachi. Excuse me. Oops. And Azelf kind of shuts it down here with Taunt. It was a good play by Robo. He prevents the rocks getting up. He gets his own rocks up and takes 52% from an Iron Head. So he's going to switch out here to Fortress, which I don't know that I necessarily agree with some of the critique I've seen saying you cannot run lead Azelf and Fortress. I think if it's a hazard stack team that you're going for, then I think it's a valid strategy. The problem lies with what happens after he switches to Fortress here. He scares Jirachi out here after laying some toxic spikes down. A lot of Fortress carry Earthquake, so Jirachi's usually careful there. And then we see Telf go to Starmie here. Starmie's going to absorb the simple poison. He's going to watch his hazards are gone. But I mean, even with toxic spike, or especially with toxic spikes down, that Jirachi's coming back in and setting rocks. Like there's nothing again. That's what I like about Jirachi. If you're going to use it not as a suicide lead, but as a lead that can get rocks up and keep rocks up, I think it's very effective at doing that job, because there's so many Pokemon that are good in our meta here in Gen 4 that can't kill Jirachi. It's just kind of like a pest. It never really goes away. So he's going to spin away those hazards on the Jirachi laid, but then he's going to immediately let this Starmie spin those rocks away as he hits him with the Gyro Ball. So this tells me two things. All right, this tells me, one, he's not carrying Rotom, which is like the ultimate Gen 4 spin blocker. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think if you're leading a Zelf to get rocks up, and then you're going into Fortress, who can usually, okay, I think I see it now. I think, if you're concerned with not letting your opponent get rocks up, you run lead as Elf. But if you have a spinner like Fortress, is it really that big of a deal if your opponent gets his rocks up right away? So yeah, I can definitely see the inconsistency there. But if you're running a hazard stack team, a duo like a Zelf Fortress whose goal is to get hazards up, you need a spin blocker like Rotom that can come in on Starmie, one of the most an S-ranked Pokemon in Gen 4 OU. I mean, you have to account for Starmie. If you're not going to run a specially defensive Rotom to spin block Starmie, then at least put something on your Fortress to deal with it. I mean, he's rocking Gyro Ball here for damage, where I have a calc pulled up over here, my handy dandy Pokemon calculator, and you'll see that Payback is a very viable move. It is a 50 base power dark move, which does double damage if it hits second. All right, so it has the potential to be a 100 base power dark move, physical, and it really whacks Starmie here. It's going to 2-hit KO your standard 252 speed, 252 attack rapid spin 3 attack Starmie. And if you're running a specially defensive thread, which I apologize, you can't. Oh, you can't see that. If you're going to run a specially defensive thread, then you're only 3-hit KO'd by Surf. So he could certainly run Hydro Pump. Let me run a calc on Hydro Pump here. Which is will probably be closer, but still not quite. I mean, you know, it's not always going to be a 2-hit KO. I didn't put lefties on, so as you can see, you know, especially defensive Fortress would have been a better fit for this team because it can handle Starmie. It could have run Payback. I mean, he loses his Starmie. You'll see how pivotal the Starmie is throughout this match, and how pivotal it is that he loses his hazards already during this match. I think that's weak and maybe lazy team design, but Robo knows that. He'll be the first to admit it. So that completely, in my opinion, set the tone for this match when Robo was almost kind of flustered out of getting his hazards up. And that actually leads Robo to make what I would consider a foolish play. So he gets Toxic Spikes back down. He gets one more layer, which is nice because it forces Starmie to take that poison damage if it wants to come back in and spin. But at this point, I'm guessing he's predicting a Heat Wave. Maybe he's predicting a bulkier Zapdos that isn't going to do that kind of damage to him. What did that do? 56%. So I actually pulled up a calc here of Infernape and Zapdos. And I would guess that this is probably, what would that do, 56%? He may not be invested then. Wow, this isn't naive. If we're going to go hasty here, I mean, this is probably a bulkier Zapdos because even a, oh, well, I've got him on modest. So he's probably, yeah, he's probably running a bold or a calm Zapdos, something like that. But there aren't too many situations where Infernape is going to have a favorable matchup against Zapdos. Common coverage moves that Infernape runs that can hit Zapdos are sometimes it runs Stone Edge. Maybe it's running HP Ice, but those aren't two really strong options. I mean, Stone Edge has that miss chance. HP Ice, especially against a bulky Zapdos with Roost, isn't going to do a lot of work to it. So, I mean, you know, and we're going to see here that Zapdos is pretty much going to shrug off this Fire Blast here. I'm thinking based on that spread that it has to be a physically biased mixed Infernape, which generally runs this moveset right here. Over Stone Edge, he could be running Thunder Punch to deal with Gyarados. So, you know, if you know switching your Infernape into Zapdos on a predicted Heat Wave, I would assume, for the Fortress, you need to have a little more to threaten that Zapdos with. Unless he was bluffing that he might have had Stone Edge and he went with Fire Blast predicting a switch, maybe to Jirachi or something, I don't know. But I know that that's, and we know how unbelievably strong an Infernape can be in Gen 4 OU. If you get it in on the right team, it will wreak havoc. And to lose it like that, kind of unceremoniously to a Zapdos, definitely not a good way to start the match. And then he's probably going to lose 75% of his bulky Dragonite spread to an HB Ice. Listen, fellas, Zapdos is running HB Ice. Just put that in your head. Every time you see a Zapdos, it is running HB Ice. Sometimes Zapdoses will run HP Grass to catch Swampert, but I think that you're going to find so much more utility in being able to still hit the grounds, but also hit Dragonite, hit Gliscor, hit your grasses like Shaman if you're not running Heat Wave. Bolt Beam coverage is just so invaluable in Gen 4 that you have to assume Zapdos is running HP Ice. And, you know, he gets punished for I mean, how impressive is that the Dragonite lives that? In fact, I should have pulled up a calc that really revealed that Zapdos is set there based on the small amount of damage it did with HP Ice to Dragonite. But he's going to lose to Scarftar here. You know, and I think you know, there's definitely critique to go around here. I don't think Robo built a very strong team, but Telf also built an interesting team. I don't really think it had a win condition, and we'll see that as this match continues. So Scarftar comes out. Fortress is going to use this opportunity to stack a few more hazards, and I believe, no, maybe he was predicting a, I don't see the need to Gyro Ball there. You know Tyranitar's not staying in. Who of these revealed Pokemon are you hitting with a Gyro Ball? See, this is, I mean, in theory, I think Gyro Ball helps on Fortress, especially against a Pokemon like Gengar. But outside of that, I think that you need to have a plan in mind for what your team needs to do, what it's supposed to do, and how it's going to do it. And I don't think Gyro Ball is involved in that. I think Payback and something to deal with Starmie or something to deal with Ghosts for Rapid Spin, like Rotom, would be a lot more useful on this Fortress set, or pairing it with a Ghost like Rotom. So. But I won't keep railing on Robo's choice of team here. I will say that I didn't agree with this play either from him. He's going to stay in and pain split the Blissey when he's already almost at full health. Like you're throwing a turn away. You're giving Blissey a turn, unless he was trying to soak up a predicted Thunder Wave. But you got to be careful in Gen 4, man. These Blisseys will run Flamethrower because they don't like being Sizer bait. So, I just think that's kind of a wasted turn there. I think that's a good turn to go back to a Zelf. If you got to eat the para, you got to eat the para, but at least you don't let Blissey get off its, aromatherapy. Now he gets hit with the Thunder Wave. And obviously this isn't good. And I will say I'm going to give Robo a little grief here, a little sympathy, because I think this is a very important para hacks here. We'll see. He gets parried. I don't know if he's going to explode there or what exactly he's going to do. He may lay down a taunt in case he thinks that Blissey's staying in. So that taunt would definitely have affected Jirachi, which will promptly lay down rocks. So those rocks that he worked very hard to get off, he's going to have to deal with them anyways. And at this point, I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall. Gets rid of his Elf. We haven't seen his last two yet, but it's going to be pretty tough to overcome this kind of core. And he's going to show his Shaman. I love Shaman. I think Shaman actually showcases its talents pretty well this match. But even Life Orb Earth Power is not going to touch Spadev Rachi, especially a lead Rachi. We're seeing just how unbelievable this Pokemon is right here. It's going to drop a Thunder Wave. We know it's running Iron Head, so I mean you've got a small window of opportunity to even get a move off against this kind of Jirachi. And he's going to take the opportunity to bounce out here, activate Natural Cure, and then he gets hit with the worst possible thing he could see here after the Iron Head. I think Robo's probably sitting there behind his computer screen right now going, please don't have Wish, please don't have Wish, and he wishes. I hate to, and I hate to keep beating this drum, but Payback probably kills him right there from 17%. That's a 100 base power Dark move on a neutral. I mean, remember, Dark is still not very effective against Steel this gen. That's probably going to knock Jirachi out there and make this so much easier on himself. Something's going to catch a Wish after the next turn, but at this point, I mean, he's got nothing to stop Jirachi from getting its health back. He's basically has to give up a free turn to let rocks come back on. I mean, the only thing that happened there is he lost health on his Fortress and he lost health on his Shaman. So at this point, I mean, we've got a Shaman that needs, some real luck with its Seed Flares, which, by the way, only has 8 PP. So, I mean, at this point, I was pretty much thinking to myself, this game is just about wrapped up. He's going to keep bouncing out. He's going to dance around a little bit. I mean, we still do have one unrevealed Pokemon for each side. But Rachi's going to keep doing what Rachi does. He's going to bounce out the Starmie here. And once again, I think if you've got a Fortress that can handle Starmie a little better, this isn't going to be as much of an issue. The Starmie may not even be in here. He's not going to get rid of those toxic spikes. I mean, those toxic spikes are going to hit 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4. And as we'll see, 4 of Telf's team. That's one of the problems I have with toxic spikes sometimes is I'll have trouble. When I throw them on a team, I'll play someone who literally isn't affected by them. Like they're running all Steel types or Levitate types. And so, sometimes I shy away from him. This was a team that was definitely hurt by toxic spikes if he could have kept them up. And I don't think it's all that difficult to run a hazard stack team with a Zelf and Fortress and not find room for a Ghost or put the tools on Fortress to keep those hazards up. So we see that the last for Telf is Machamp, which once again reveals a team without a real win condition. Machamp's kind of a wall breaker. Blissey's kind of a cleric. We got our Spadef Rachi. Rapid Spin, Recover Starmie, probably, I don't know, Roost, Bulky Zapdos, and then Scarftar. Like, you don't really have any opportunity to set up and kind of sweep there. I mean, I guess Scarftar can sweep under the right conditions. Zapdos can sweep under the right conditions. I don't know how much speed it had. It's just an interesting team that I think worked out for this matchup, and that's all that matters is winning your matchup. I just don't think it's, I think he's definitely needs to get hit the team building board again for next week, which I'm sure he will. I don't know who his matchup is this week, but I think we've had some good matchups so far in DPP. It's pretty amazing to see, who we considered the best DPP players in the league. Nick, Robo, Spain almost went down. I mean, this first week kind of shows how diverse the meta is and how anyone can pick it up and do pretty well, especially if they have experience with competitive Pokemon. So, Robo's kind of flailing here. His last is a Jirachi, which, I'd like to see a mixed Jirachi shown a little earlier, especially against a team like this where you've got a bunch of different things you want to navigate. I think he, could have gotten him in earlier and maybe made a play, but he kind of got locked in this hazards battle, and you know, he's not gonna get past the Machamp here. It's also, that's the other thing about Machamp too, is Machamp is a early to mid game breaker in my opinion, because there aren't too many comfortable switch-ins for Machamp outside of something like Spiritomb, and so I think Telth would have been better served just kind of wreaking havoc early game with Machamp and letting, maybe Zapdos come in a little later, maybe Scarfdar come in a little later, or have something in the back to kind of seal a win like a Lucario or a Sizer. But nonetheless, he gets rid of uh, he gets rid of the Fortress. We got Shaman coming in here with 50% health. I'm going to spare you guys. This Shaman's going to put up a hell of a fight against a Blissey, but with Blissey and friends left and only 8 PP on Seed Flare, it just doesn't have the. It just can't win a long-term battle against a behemoth like Blissey when it can switch out to Jirachi whenever it wants. So he's going to eventually succumb to the secondary damage and seismic tosses, and that is the game for Telf. So hope you enjoyed that. Just kind of my stream of consciousness when watching a DPP match. Thought this was a good one. I think there's many more good matches to come, and I will be sure to get working on those. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.